My name is Victoria Thompson. I'm 30 years old, an interior designer who thought her biggest problems were client deadlines and color palettes. I was wrong. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday night. I was half watching a design vlog, half checking my notifications when a voice memo popped up on my screen. From my sister. Subject line, for mom. Sent. To me. I smiled without thinking. Maybe it was a cute update about our weekend plans or something sweet for mom that she'd accidentally shared with me. I tapped play. What came out of my phone wasn't cute. Can you believe her? My sister's voice scoffed. Vic walks around like she's some big designer now. Those little contracts? It's embarrassing. Mom babies her so much she actually believes she's important. I froze. She laughed softly. Honestly, listening to her brag about her business makes me want to mute the group chat. I only pretend to support her because mom expects it. If clients knew how insecure she really is, they'd never hire her. The room went silent. My ears were ringing. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. It sounded rehearsed, measured, like a script she'd been reciting in her head for years. About me, to our mom, behind my back. My chest tightened, but underneath the sting, something else flickered to life. A cold, clear resolve. By the time the memo ended, I'd made a decision. The next morning, I wasn't just going to leave my apartment. I was going to leave the role she'd written for me. Quiet, grateful, lesser. And I was going to do it with a plan she would never see coming. If you've ever trusted family the way I trusted my sister, you'll want to hear what happened next. So stay, because this is where loyalty gets ugly. The morning after that voice memo, I didn't cry. I thought I would. I thought I'd wake up with puffy eyes and a sore throat from sobbing into my pillow. Instead, I woke up with a knot in my stomach and a checklist in my head. Step 1. Listen to the memo again. Step 2. Stop pretending I hadn't heard it. Step 3. Decide who I wanted to be now that the illusion was gone. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, replaying the part where she said it was embarrassing that I walked around like a real designer. The way she spat out the word business like it was a joke. Growing up, I used to copy everything my sister did. Her outfits, her handwriting, even the way she laughed. She was 2 years older, always one step ahead, effortlessly charming where I was quiet and careful. Our parents bragged about her grades, her internships, her potential. I didn't mind being the second act. I thought, that's just how sisters worked. When I started my interior design business, she was the first person I told. She clapped, hugged me, said the right things. I'm so proud of you, Vic. But the cracks were always there if I looked closely enough. The sarcastic little comments at family dinners, the way she'd hijack conversations about my work and turn them into stories about her own accomplishments. Back then, I forgave it as just her personality. Last night's memo proved it was more than that. It wasn't playful. It was contempt. I showered, dressed, and grabbed a box from my closet. Our sister dynamic didn't just exist in our family group chat. We'd built a shared professional life too. At least, that's what I told myself. My sister worked in high-end event marketing. She let me use a corner of her sleek downtown office as my studio when I was first starting out. It was a generous gesture on the surface. Underneath, it kept me under her roof, under her rules. Step 4. Get my things out of her space. I drove to the office with the memo still echoing in my ears. The lobby smelled like polished marble and perfume. Her world. I rode the elevator up, swiping my keycard one last time. My tiny corner was exactly how I'd left it. Fabric swatches, sample boards, a mood board for a restaurant project I was excited about. I packed in silence. Every framed drawing, every sketch pad, every little sign that I existed there went into the box. I left the key card on the desk, right next to the vase she'd once joked I could never afford on my own. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no slammed doors, just removal. As I carried the box back to my car, I opened my calendar app. That's when I saw it. The big red circle around a date 10 days away. Flagship showcase, curated by my sister's name, industry leaders attending. A high-profile design and lifestyle event she'd been planning for months. The guest list was basically a who's who of my field. Influencers, developers, editors, clients I'd only ever dreamed of meeting. An idea snapped into place so cleanly it scared me. She'd spent years telling that version of me to our mom, the needy little sister playing at being a designer. What would happen if I showed the whole industry a different version in one night? Not by begging for her approval, by making sure I didn't need it. I buckled the box in next to me and pulled out of the garage. Step 5 was forming in my mind. Don't just confront her, outgrow her, publicly. And I knew exactly who I needed to talk to first. By the time I parked outside my favorite cafe, the anger had cooled into something sharper. Strategy. Julia was already there, sitting by the window with her laptop open and a tape measure peeking out of her tote bag. She wasn't just a friend. She was an established interior decorator with a solid reputation and, more importantly, someone who'd watched me work up close. She looked up, smiling. "Hey, Vic. You look—" Her smile faded as she really saw me. "Okay, what happened?" I didn't bother with small talk. I slid into the seat across from her, pulled out my phone, and placed it between us. "I need you to listen to something. And I need you to believe me when I say I didn't send it to myself." That earned a confused frown. "Why would you—" I hit play. We sat in that crowded cafe, surrounded by clinking cups and low conversations, while my sister's voice filled the tiny space between us. The insults, the dismissal, the revelation that she'd been performing support for my mother while secretly undermining me. Julia's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to anger. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, eyes fixed on the phone like it might bite her. When the memo ended, the silence felt heavier than the noise around us. "Wow," she finally breathed. "Vic, I knew she could be competitive, but this is calculated." "She sent it to me by accident," I said quietly. "It was meant for Mom." Julia leaned back, exhaling. "And your mom believes her?" She believes both of us," I said. "But my sister's always been the together one, the star. When she jokes about me being sensitive or not a real business owner yet, people laugh. I laugh too. Until last night." Julia's jaw tightened. "You know I used to work with someone like her, right? A senior designer who acted like she owned my career? She'd praise me in public, then call me replaceable behind my back to clients. I only found out because one of them told me." A bitterness flickered in her eyes. "It took me years to dig my reputation out from under hers. That hit me harder than I expected." "What did you do?" "I left," she said. "And then I made sure my work spoke louder than anything she could say. But I never had proof the way you do." My fingers brushed the screen of my phone. Proof. Evidence I hadn't asked for but couldn't unhear. "I don't just want to send her a long text and block her," I admitted. "I want to stop giving her quiet control over how people see me, especially in this industry." Julia looked at me carefully. "You're thinking about the showcase, aren't you?" Of course she'd connect the dots. She'd been part of some of the early brainstorming when my sister first pitched the event. "It's the perfect storm," I said. "She's curated the guest list. Sponsors, magazine editors, developers, other designers. The people she wants to impress the most. The people who already think of me as her little sister who tags along. And you want to change that narrative in one night." "I want to show them my work," I said. "On my terms. Not as an accessory to her event, but as a featured designer." Julia tapped her fingers on the table, thinking. "You're not on the program. Yet." That got me a slow, dangerous smile. "You know the brand rep for the main sponsor, right? The one who loved your restaurant remodel? If you pitch them a segment where you walk through your design philosophy live, they might insist on adding you." My heart thudded. "Do you really think—" "Vic, your work is good," Julia cut in. Objectively. And you have the voice memo. You don't even have to play it publicly if you don't want to. Just knowing you've got receipts changes the power dynamic. I hesitated. Is it petty to even think about exposing her like that? Julia's gaze softened. Petty is changing your Wi-Fi password to annoy your roommate. This is about years of gaslighting and sabotage. But only you can decide how far you want to go. Just ask yourself, is your goal to destroy her or to free yourself? The question lodged itself in my chest. I pictured my sister as a teenager, storming out of a room when she got a B instead of an A. I remembered her crying once when a big corporate job fell through and our parents quietly shifted their hopes onto me without realizing how it might sting her. I'd always thought her sharpness came from strength. What if it came from fear? Did that excuse what she'd said? No, but it did complicate why. I don't want to ruin her life, I said slowly. I just want my own. Then build a plan that does exactly that, Julia said. Use the showcase to put your work in front of people. Stand up for yourself if she tries to belittle you. Let the truth sit where it lands. You don't have to twist the knife. Let her own words do that if they need to. We spent the next 2 hours mapping out possibilities. We listed my most impressive projects and which ones would resonate with the audience. We drafted an email to the sponsor's rep, framing my segment as added value and a fresh angle. We rehearsed how I'd speak about support, collaboration, and what it means when those closest to you don't actually want you to succeed. Not a word of it mentioned my sister by name. Not yet. By the time I left the cafe, the plan had edges. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was structure. I wasn't going to beg my sister to see me differently. I was going to walk onto her stage, in front of her people, and show them who I really was, whether she liked it or not. 10 days later, Miami's humidity hugged the city like a second skin as I stood outside the glass doors of the showcase venue. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see everything. The branded step-and-repeat wall, the floral arrangements, the carefully curated lighting. My sister's signature style was everywhere. Crisp, controlled, perfect. For years, I'd been part of this world as her plus one, the quiet sibling tucked just out of frame, taking photos for her social media, adjusting table centerpieces no one knew I'd designed. Tonight, my name was on the program. An email from the sponsor had done what I hadn't dared hope for. After I pitched my immersive design segment, they'd replied within 24 hours. We love this. It adds depth to the event. We'll inform your sister and update the run of show. My sister hadn't called. She'd sent a single text. Heard you're presenting. Interesting. Don't screw this up. I walked in, badge hanging around my neck. Presentation file on my USB drive. Voice memo backed up in 3 places. Victoria! One of the brand reps waved me over. We're so excited for your segment. It's going to give people a real look at the design side, not just the marketing. I smiled, my nerves simmering under the surface. Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And then I saw her. My sister stood near the bar in a perfectly tailored jumpsuit, laughing with a group of executives. When her eyes met mine, her smile didn't falter, but it did change. It thinned, curled. She excused herself and crossed the room with purposeful steps. You look surprisingly put together, she said. Big night for you, huh? Big night for both of us, I replied. You did a great job with the event. You mean we did, she corrected smoothly. You know these sponsors are here because of my relationships, right? So just follow the script. Don't go off topic. And this can be a little win for you. There it was again. Little. A word she wore like perfume when she talked about my achievements. I wasn't given a script, I said evenly. They asked me to talk about my process and experience. She tilted her head. Your process? A hint of that laugh from the memo slipped out. Vic, these people don't need a TED Talk. They want content. Pretty pictures. Keep it light. Someone called her name from across the room. She flashed me a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. I have to go charm the money, but seriously, don't overcomplicate this. You're here because I allowed it. Try not to forget that. She walked away before I could answer. Allowed it. She truly believed that. Later, backstage near the small stage, I could hear the hum of the crowd. The MC hyped up the audience, segueing from sponsor acknowledgments into the design spotlight segment. My cue. Julia squeezed my hand. She'd been invited as a guest and had somehow maneuvered herself close to the backstage area. You've got this, she whispered. Just tell the truth about your work. The rest will take care of itself. The MC's voice boomed. Please welcome interior designer Victoria Thompson, here to share how she transforms spaces and the stories behind them. Applause. I stepped out into the light. Row after row of faces looked up at me, some familiar, some intimidatingly important, some just curious. I took a breath, grounding myself in something simple. I knew my craft. I was good at it. Hi, I began. I'm Victoria, and I design spaces for people who don't just want something that looks expensive. They want something that feels like them. A few smiles, a few nods. I clicked to the first slide. Before and after photos of a cramped cafe I'd turned into a cozy, profitable hangout. I talked about flow, color psychology, how we'd watched sales climb once people actually wanted to stay longer. Slide after slide, I walked them through projects I was proud of. A boutique hotel lobby, a family living room that needed to function as a therapy-friendly space for a child with sensory issues, a restaurant designed around the story of the chef's grandmother. I didn't rush. I didn't apologize. The more I spoke, the more the room settled into a quiet focus. They weren't looking over my shoulder for my sister. They were looking at my work, at me. About halfway through, I switched to a slide that wasn't about furniture or lighting. It was a simple title: When Support Isn't Really Support. The energy in the room shifted. I want to talk about something we don't always address in glossy industry events like this, I said. We talk about collaboration, connections, support systems. But what happens when the people who claim to support you actually don't want you to succeed? A murmur rustled through the audience. Backstage, I saw a flicker of movement. My sister had stepped closer, watching from the wings, arms folded. Good. For years, I continued, I believed I was lucky. Lucky to have someone older, more experienced, willing to help me, to give me space in their office, to introduce me as their baby sister who's trying out this design thing. A couple of people chuckled. They recognized the dynamic. I told myself it was fine, I said, that I was being sensitive. That joking about my career didn't mean they actually looked down on me. I let that hang for a beat. And then, I said quietly, I heard what they really say when they think I'm not listening. The room went still. I glanced at the phone in my hand, not playing anything yet, just resting there like a loaded choice. I'm not here to play victim, I said. I'm here because tonight, in a space my sister built, I finally have the chance to show you who I am without anyone else's filter. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd as my sister stepped fully into view at the side of the stage, her expression tight, eyes flashing warnings only I could read. I met her gaze and didn't look away. What I heard in that voice memo, I said, changed everything. And that was when the real confrontation began. I didn't hit play, not yet. Just knowing I could was enough to tilt the room. I'm not going to blast my private family drama at full volume, I told the audience. But I am going to tell you what was said, because it matters to anyone who's ever been quietly minimized by the people closest to them. My hands were steady, my voice was too. She called me pathetic, I said. Said my contracts were embarrassing, that she only pretended to support me because our mother expected it. That if clients knew how insecure I really was, they'd never hire me. A few people winced. Someone in the front row whispered, "Wow." And the hardest part? I continued. It wasn't just the words. It was realizing how familiar they sounded. How many times I'd heard watered-down versions of them in jokes, in advice, in little digs I'd brushed off because I didn't want to rock the boat. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my sister move. She marched toward the stage, heels clicking like small explosions. "Okay, that's enough," she said sharply, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "This is wildly unprofessional, Vic. We are not turning my event into your therapy session." The audience turned toward her like a field of sunflowers chasing light. I took a breath. "This is exactly why I'm speaking now," I replied. "Because for years you've talked about me to other people, including Mom, instead of talking to me. And everyone just accepted it." "This is not the place," she hissed, stepping closer. "Do you have any idea how this makes us look?" "I think it makes us look accurate," I said calmly. "I'm not lying, and you know it. I have the recording." A collective murmur swept the room. Her face flushed. "You're taking it out of context," she said. "I was venting. People vent. It doesn't mean I don't support you." I tilted my head. "Is that what support looks like to you? Telling Mom you're embarrassed by my career? Saying my clients would drop me if they knew the truth about me?" "Stop twisting this," she snapped. "You would still be working out of your bedroom if I hadn't given you office space. I gave you connections. I brought you into these circles. And this is how you repay me?" There it was. The narrative she'd always owned. The benefactor. The gatekeeper. The audience watched us like it was a live play. "You lent me space," I said, "and then used it to keep reminding me it wasn't really mine. You introduced me as an accessory, as your project. You're not my savior. You're my sister. At least, you're supposed to be." Her jaw clenched. "You're blowing everything up over one stupid memo." "It's never just one thing," I replied softly. "It's years of you needing to be the star, even when it meant dimming my light. It's you telling me I'm too sensitive every time I flinched. It's you rewriting my success as something you allowed." I turned back to the audience, feeling dozens of eyes on me. "I'm not sharing this to make you hate her," I said. "I'm sharing it because this industry is built on connections, and sometimes the ones we rely on most are the ones quietly cutting us down. I want younger designers, especially, to hear this and know they're not crazy for feeling the way I did." I looked at my sister again. "You're brilliant at what you do," I said honestly. "You build beautiful events. You charm entire rooms. You could have had a sister standing beside you who adored you and wanted to celebrate that." Her eyes glistened for a split second before she blinked it away. "But you chose control over connection," I finished. Something in her snapped. "You want to talk about control?" she shouted. "Fine. Here's the truth, everyone. Our parents compared us constantly. Do you know what it's like to be told you're the golden child and then watch them pour all their attention into your little sister when she finally finds something she's good at? You stole my spotlight, Vic, and now you're here, trying to humiliate me in front of clients I worked years to get." That, I hadn't expected her to say out loud. A hush fell over the room. Not judgment. Not yet. Just stunned awareness that this had gone deeper than a petty sibling feud. I swallowed. "I didn't steal anything from you," I said quietly. "I found something that made me feel like I mattered. I begged you to be proud of me." I held up the phone, thumb hovering over the play button. "I'm not going to press this," I said. "Because honestly, hearing your voice say those words once was enough. For me. For Mom. For anyone who ever wonders why I finally drew a line." I slid the phone into my pocket. "You said I'd be nothing without you," I continued. "Tonight proves that's not true. People are responding to my work, not because you handed them to me, but because I've earned it. And I'm done pretending I'm small so you can feel big." For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Then somewhere in the middle rows, someone started clapping. It was hesitant at first, then firmer, then joined by another set of hands. And another. Julia stood up and clapped like she was willing the entire room to follow. They did. Applause rolled over us, not like a standing ovation at a Broadway show, but like a quiet vote, a decision. My sister's face crumpled, then hardened again. She looked around, realized how few people were willing to meet her eyes, and straightened her shoulders. "You're going to regret this," she said under her breath. You think this makes you look brave? It makes you look vindictive. Maybe, I admitted. Maybe some people will think that. But at least now, they're seeing a fuller picture instead of the edited version you've been narrating. She turned on her heel and walked off stage, past the stunned sponsors and murmuring guests. For the first time in my life, I watched her leave a room without feeling like I needed to run after her. I finished my presentation, answered a few shaky questions, and stepped down from the stage into a life that would not be the same. The moment I stepped off stage, the adrenaline crashed. My hands started to shake. My knees felt weak. For a second, I considered hiding in the bathroom until everyone went home. Instead, I found myself surrounded. Hey, that cafe project. You did the acoustics yourself? A restaurant owner asked, genuinely curious. I had no idea you handled the sensory design on that family home, said a woman in a navy blazer. My nephew is autistic. Could we talk about working together? Every question about my work acted like a small anchor, pulling me away from the spiraling thought. What have I done? When the crowd thinned, Julia grabbed me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe. You were incredible, she said into my hair. I'm so proud of you. Incredible or insane, I muttered. Both, she admitted, pulling back. But sometimes the truth needs a little insanity to shake it loose. Still, as the night went on, I couldn't shake the image of my sister's face when the clapping started. The way her eyes had darted around, looking for someone, anyone, to validate her version of the story. No one did. By the time the event wrapped, she was gone. I went home to a buzzing phone. Texts from friends. You did the right thing. A DM from a small design blog. We'd love to feature your work and talk about navigating family dynamics in creative careers. An email from one of the event sponsors. Let's schedule a meeting. We see potential in you as a solo collaborator. And then, the message I'd been waiting for and dreading at the same time. Mom, your sister called me sobbing. What happened? Mom, she says you humiliated her on purpose. Is that true? I stared at the screen, guilt and anger wrestling in my chest. I typed, deleted, retyped. Finally, me. She sent you a memo about me that she accidentally sent to me instead. You heard it. I just stopped pretending it didn't exist. Me. I didn't play it at the event. I told the truth. That's all. There was a long pause. Mom. I did hear it. I told myself she was just venting. That's what she said when I confronted her. Mom. I'm sorry, honey. I should have protected you more. Tears pricked my eyes for the first time since this all started. Me. You don't have to choose sides, but I can't keep playing the role she put me in. The days that followed were messy. An anonymous industry gossip account posted a vague blind item. Sister showdown at major Miami showcase. Jealousy. Voice memo. Public confrontation. Whose side are you on? Speculation ran wild in the comments even without names. A client politely asked if my family drama would affect my work. I reassured them it wouldn't, then immediately over-delivered on their project just to be sure. Word filtered back to me through mutual contacts. One of my sister's biggest corporate clients had quietly pulled out of a future event. Too much risk, they'd said. We don't want to be in the middle of that kind of controversy. She posted a long, polished Instagram caption about the challenges of being a big sister, about being misunderstood, about boundaries being crossed in public spaces. The comment section was divided. Some people called her brave. Others, who'd worked with both of us, left comments like, accountability is hard, but necessary. I didn't respond. I didn't subtweet. I didn't post my own version. I just kept working. Every time my phone lit up, I flinched, half expecting a rage-filled call from her. Instead, I got silence, which, in some ways, was worse. One evening, after spending hours fine-tuning a mood board, I sat on my couch and let the quiet swallow me. Had I gone too far? Yes, she'd hurt me. Yes, she'd chipped away at my confidence for years. Yes, the memo had been brutal. But I had chosen the stage. I had chosen an audience. I had chosen a kind of revenge that came with collateral damage. Her reputation, our mother's peace, the story our extended family would tell about us for years. I thought about Julia's question in the cafe. Is your goal to destroy her or to free yourself? Had I accidentally done both? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. We need to talk. Cafe on 8th, tomorrow at noon. I didn't need to ask who it was. I put the phone down and stared at the ceiling, my mind a whirl of what-ifs. Here's the part no one tells you about revenge. Even when it works, it doesn't magically erase the part of you that once loved the person you exposed. You're left holding both truths at once, the hurt and the history. As I lay there, I realized something else. Tomorrow's conversation wouldn't be about correcting what had already happened. It would be about deciding what happened next. The cafe on 8th was neutral territory, public enough that neither of us could explode, quiet enough that we couldn't pretend we didn't hear each other. I got there 10 minutes early and ordered a coffee I barely tasted. My sister walked in exactly at noon. She looked different. Not dramatically. Same polished clothes, same sleek hair, but the edges were duller. The confident stride was forced. Her eyes scanned the room like she was bracing for recognition, for whispers. Hey, I said. Hi, she replied, sitting down across from me. No hug, no air kisses, just distance. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I lost the Fairfax account, she said finally, staring at the sugar packets. The one I'd been courting for a year. They said they didn't want their brand associated with unresolved drama. I swallowed. I heard. And Mom cries every time I call, she added, voice tight. She says she feels like she's failed us. Guilt twisted in my gut, but I forced myself not to apologize automatically. Not this time. I'm not happy you lost a client, I said. Whatever you think of me, I don't want you to be destroyed. Her laugh was short, bitter. Could have fooled me. I held her gaze. If I wanted to destroy you, I'd have played the memo in that room. I didn't. I just stopped covering for you. She flinched. We sat with that for a second. I was angry, she admitted quietly. When Mom sent me the screenshot showing you'd received the memo, I panicked. I told her it was nothing, that you were overreacting. I thought if I controlled the narrative fast enough, it would blow over. Like it always did, I said. She didn't deny it. You don't understand what it was like, she said, her voice suddenly sharp again. Being told I was the responsible one, the successful one, the one who had to set the example. And then, you start this little business. I raised an eyebrow. Little, she exhaled. Fine, your business. And Mom starts sending me your posts, your projects, talking about how proud she is that you found your passion. Like everything I'd done until then just evaporated. That hurt you, I said, more statement than question. Yes, she snapped. It hurt. And I didn't know what to do with that except make you smaller in my head, in my words. So I wouldn't have to feel like I'd failed at being special. It was brutally honest. I hadn't expected that. So you tore me down to hold on to your own reflection, I said softly. Her eyes glistened. I know how it sounds. It sounds like you knew exactly what you were doing, I replied. And you did it anyway. For years. Silence again. I'm not a monster, Vic, she said finally. I recommended you for clients. I posted your work. I showed up to your openings. And then you called me pathetic when you thought I couldn't hear you, I said. You told Mom you were embarrassed by me. You told people in our family that I was playing designer while you did the real work. She winced. I was venting. Stop hiding behind that word, I said, my patience thinning. Vent once, okay. Vent twice, maybe. But pattern plus power? That's not venting. That's abuse. She looked like I'd slapped her. I'm not saying you're evil, I continued more gently. I'm saying your behavior hurt me, deeply. And if I'd confronted you in private, you would have done what you always do. Laughed, called me sensitive, turned it into a joke or a guilt trip. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Yeah, she admitted hoarsely. I probably would have. So I chose a different way, I said. Maybe it wasn't perfect. Maybe it was messy and public and harsher than it needed to be. But it was the only way I trusted myself not to get pulled back into the same cycle. Tears slipped down her cheeks, ruining her precisely applied eyeliner. She didn't wipe them away. You made me the villain, she whispered. You made yourself the villain, I said. I just stopped rewriting the script for you. We sat there, two grown women who'd once shared bunk beds and secrets, now separated by years of unspoken resentment. Can we fix this? She asked quietly, the question hanging between us like a fragile bridge. I thought about Mom's messages, about the clients I'd gained, about the client she'd lost, about the girl I'd been. Eyes shining, begging her older sister to look at her and say, I'm proud of you, without a hidden knife behind the words. I don't know, I said honestly. I think we can maybe build something new. But it won't look like what we had before. There will have to be boundaries. Like what? She whispered. Like, you don't get to comment on my career as if you own it, I said. You don't get to use me as a punchline to make yourself more relatable. And if you're upset with me, you talk to me. Not to Mom, not to strangers. And in return, she asked, almost wary. In return, I said, I won't drag your name through the mud. I won't talk about you on panels or in interviews. I will say, we had a conflict and we're working on it. Or not. But I won't make a brand out of your worst moment. She studied me, searching for a trap. Does that mean we're okay? She asked. I shook my head. It means I'm willing to stop swinging, but I'm not stepping back into your shadow. And I'm not pretending this didn't happen. She nodded slowly, absorbing that. I'm sorry, she said finally, the words so soft I almost missed them. Not just for the memo. For all of it. The jokes. The digs. The way I made you feel small so I didn't have to feel less. My throat tightened. I'd wanted an apology for so long I'd pictured it like a magic spell that would fix everything. Hearing it now, I realized something. It didn't fix me. I'd already done that work myself. I hear you, I said, and I appreciate you saying it. Whether we end up close again or not, I needed you to understand what you did. We finished our drinks in silence. When we stood up to leave, she hesitated. If I call you, will you answer? She asked. Maybe, I said honestly. Depends on why you're calling. She nodded. Fair. We walked out into the sunlight, side by side but not touching. At the corner, our paths split, literally and figuratively. She went left, toward the high-rises where she'd built her image. I went right, toward the neighborhood where I'd quietly built my career. As I walked, my phone buzzed. An email. Victoria, we loved your segment. Are you available to speak at our design conference about owning your work and your story? I smiled, not because I wanted to turn my sister into content, but because for the first time, people were asking for me, not as an accessory to someone else, but as the main voice. Here's what I know now. Revenge doesn't always look like dramatic takedowns. Sometimes it's just refusing to live under someone else's version of you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step out of the story they wrote and write your own, even if it means they have to face who they've been. I don't know if my sister and I will ever be the way we were, but I do know this. I'm Victoria Thompson. I'm a real designer with real work and a real voice. And I'm finally done apologizing for taking up space, even when the person I had to stand up to was family.